What's up, everybody? Josh Armijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to be talking to you about the new album from the band Fluids, entitled Ignorance Exalted. This is released on Maggot Stomp. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they are based out of Phoenix, Arizona, and the best way to describe the sound of this band would be a very raw, gritty, primitive style of death metal. Yeah. When bands in extreme metal stir or drum up a lot of controversy, whether it be big or small, I believe it is my sworn duty as an extreme metal fan to get to the bottom of things, find out why they're so popular, find out why they're so controversial or extreme in nature, and figure out whether I think it's worth being listened to or not. In the case of Fluids, I'm very, very glad I was introduced to this band, because if it wasn't for the controversy or the way this band goes about doing their business, I wouldn't be as big into them as I currently am now. This is quite an intriguing and interesting band, to say the least bit, because I really love this band's style and approach to death metal. Pretty much, you have your mixture of low, down-tuned riffs, very rattling and audible bass, obvious drum machine usage, low guttural vocals, and very distinctive and unique audio samples. And by distinctive and unique, I mean things that are real. No horror movie or acting or any of that sort of stuff. These are sounds taken from the real world that are meant to be shocking and disturbing. And I love this band's usage of real samples and imagery that evokes a lot of stomach-churning disgust, whether it be gore or whether it be something that they post on their social media stories, whether it involves blood or fecal matter or urine or cum or any of that sort of nasty shit. This is a band that is definitely not safe for work and not PC, and I appreciate what they're going for here. I mean, if you like stuff like Mortician or any sort of band that invokes the drum machine sort of style, Fluids embodies that sort of style and does it justice. And it has done so very well with all of the EP, demo, and split material this band has put out. Most notably, stuff like the Arterial Rift EP, the Bagged and Tagged demo, which was my first introduction to them, and of course their debut full-length from 2019 with Exploitative Practices. That was such a great album and a great full-circle moment for Fluids to come through with Exploitative Practices. Love the album, love the music, love the riffs, love the ambiguousness going into that album. Like, what do all these song titles mean? What are all these songs about? What are all these samples about? That's basically what you find out when listening to a project like Fluids. But moving into 2020, Fluids are back, and they have a brand new offering in the form of Ignorance Exalted. Now, I kept seeing things pop up here and there about this being an EP, or this being a full length, but for all intents and purposes, I'm going to call it a album review. I'm going to call it a full length until I get some sort of explanation that says it's either a full length or an EP, or whatever. I'll call it a full length album. So yeah. Second full length from Fluids, entitled Ignorance Exalted. It's 8 tracks, and it clocks in at around 27 minutes in length. And pretty much upon the opening moments of listening to Extorted, you hear the opening samples of some sort of interrogation or courtroom banter between ex-police officers or something like that, to the beat of some drum machines and some synth work. Once you get comfortable with what you're listening to, you get thrown right into the madness that is the Fluids musical style. And I think with Ignorance Exalted, they take what they had with Exploitative Practices and they make things a lot better. It's a lot better, it's a lot more well-rounded, it's a lot more well-executed, and it's just devastating stuff to listen to from front all the way to back. And there's just a lot to take in here with an album like this, but I do think that this is probably the best material I've heard Fluids do yet, and it only makes me more excited to see and hear what is going to happen next. Musically, it is just top notch as top notch can get here. I mean, listening to songs like Cap, there's this one riff that just keeps repeating and gets stuck in your head over and over again that makes it so memorable. But then later on with songs like Redacted and Chunked, you just get a lot of great grittiness going forward here with these guitar riffs. There's a lot of great riffs, a little solo here and there. But the main emphasis is that these riffs are just so pummeling. It's just so nasty and so memorable. I love the guitar work being played here on this album. The bass work is very gritty, rattling, loud, and obnoxious. It's meant to be loud and obnoxious. And that's what I appreciate a lot about this Fluid sound is the emphasis of the loud bass tones complementing the loud riffs and guitar tones that you hear throughout this entire album. It's just really devastating stuff. When it comes to the drum machine, like I said, this is a drum machine band, so pretty much get yourself acquainted with their sound and try not to be too freaked out about them using a drum machine. But in Fluids' case, it works. It works perfectly. It works very well. It's very well syncopated, well articulated. Very awesome drum machine stuff going on here. And one thing that's also great about Fluids is their usage of synths being executed throughout this entire album. I mean, you hear it on songs like the opening track with Extorted, and then Quartered, and then the closing track Smothered, which I think is a really nice touch. And speaking of which, you can't have a Fluids album without some of the real-world sampling going on here. I mentioned at the beginning with Extorted, with the ex-police officer interrogation stuff, and then on the track Quartered, you hear what sounds like some cartel shit going on, some violent acts being committed on that audio sample, and then on the track Smothered, you hear this man getting dominated by some woman with her foot on this guy's throat to the point where he can't breathe and he starts retching and making all these really uncomforting, disgusting sounds like that type of thing. It's discomforting, and I was lucky enough to know where that sample came from. I wouldn't wish anybody seeing that shit personally, but it's a great sample, and I really appreciate that a lot. But moving on to the vocals are very good here. I love the guttural vocals. I love how angry and low drawling this guy sounds. It's just really creepy and intimidating, and I love his vocal delivery throughout this entire album. He commands your attention and keeps you interested in everything that's going on and makes you very fearful for what may happen in the song or what may end up happening to you after listening to it. I think it's absolutely crazy vocal work going on here. So overall, like I said, I think this is the best material Fluids has done to date. This is some absolutely gritty, grimy stuff. It probably won't be for everyone's taste, but it definitely won't be for death metal white knights or anything of that nature. This is straight up raw, ugly death metal, done right, done properly, and I cannot recommend this album enough. If I didn't think of any personal favorite tracks, I would definitely have to say Extorted, Capped, Redacted, Chunked, and the closing track Smothered. If anything, for that that crazy, nasty sample. Ugh, despicable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you some links in the description box as to how you can get a hold of this album and listen to it. I will leave you a link to the Fluids Bandcamp page where you can listen to this album in its entirety, hear it for yourself, and be your own judge as to whether you think it's worthy of being purchased or not. You can stream it, buy it digitally, and to the best of my knowledge, this was currently physically available as a cassette tape, but it has since sold out. I don't know if there will be more cassettes available in the future, but there will be a CD and vinyl version later to come from them, so keep an eye and ear out on the Maggot Stomp social media channels for any further information about physical copies of this new Fluids release. So, again, the album is Ignorance Exalted by Fluids. This is released on Maggot Stomp. Definitely check this one out, and for a score, I'm going to give this a very strong 9 out of 10. Definitely some of the best Fluids material to date, and definitely something that will make you feel right at home if you're into ugly, raw, gritty death metal. So, if you've happened to have heard this album, definitely let me know what you think about it and how you feel about it and how you think it compares to previous Fluids releases, or any of you guys into Fluids, definitely let me know. I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel, and until the next time, I'm out.